Dr. Ju Park stood outside the restaurant, checking her watch for the third time. The evening air was cool against her face as she tried to calm her racing heart. She hadn't been on a date in 3 years, and never with someone from another planet. "This is ridiculous," she muttered, smoothing down her dark blue dress. Her colleagues at the Xenobiology Institute had worn her down after months of gentle teasing about her work schedule. "You study alien biology all day but won't even talk to one over dinner," Dr. Kim had laughed, helping her set up a profile on the interspecies dating app. Ju took a deep breath. She was 32 years old, respected in her field, and had presented research to rooms full of the galaxy's brightest minds. Yet here she was, nervous about a simple dinner. The restaurant, Cosmic Junction, was carefully designed to accommodate various species. The lighting was adjustable, the menu featured foods safe for multiple biologies, and the seating came in different shapes and sizes. It was one of the first businesses to open after Earth joined the Galactic Alliance 12 years ago. Ju checked her phone. The translation app was ready, though her date's profile indicated he was fluent in standard Earth English. Her research notes on his species were available with a quick tap, though she had memorized most of the important details. "If it's terrible, I never have to do it again," she reminded herself. The restaurant door swung open, and Juwoo's breath caught in her throat. Her date was taller than she expected, nearly 7 feet, with skin that seemed to shimmer between blue and silver depending on how the light hit it. His features were remarkably humanoid, though his eyes were larger, completely silver, with no visible pupils. His dark hair was cut short, and he wore what appeared to be a formal diplomatic uniform. He scanned the waiting area, and his eyes widened slightly when he spotted her. A small smile formed on his lips as he approached. "Dr. Park, I am Diplomatic Envoy Taeyeon. It is an honor to meet you in person." His voice was deeper than it had sounded in their brief video chat, with a musical quality to it. "Please, call me Ju," she said, extending her hand in the human greeting before remembering, and quickly pulling it back. "Sorry, I forgot your people prefer not to touch upon first meeting." Taeyeon's smile widened. "You've studied our customs. I'm impressed. And please, don't worry. I've been on Earth long enough to adapt to some of your greetings." He carefully extended his hand, and they shared a brief handshake. Inside, they were led to a quiet corner table. Ju noticed several other mixed-species couples around the restaurant. Interspecies dating had become more common in recent years, though still rare enough to draw curious glances. "I must admit," Taeyeon said after they ordered, "I was surprised when we matched. Your profile suggested you were quite focused on your work." Ju laughed. "My colleagues set up most of it. They think I need a life outside the lab." "And do you need a life outside the lab?" She considered the question. "Maybe. Science has always been enough for me. But lately I've wondered what else might be out there." "A scientist to the core," Taeyeon observed. "Always curious." Their food arrived. A modified Earth pasta for her and something that looked like blue crystal formations for him. "Your research on comparative xenobiology is fascinating," Taeyeon said. "Especially your paper on convergent evolution across oxygen-breathing species." Ju nearly choked on her water. "You read my paper?" "All 3 of them, actually. Your approach to comparing respiratory systems across different evolutionary paths is quite innovative." For the first time that evening, Ju relaxed completely. They fell into easy conversation about her work, his diplomatic mission on Earth, and the challenges of interspecies communication. "The hardest part isn't language," Taeyeon explained, "but cultural context. Words translate, but meanings often don't." "Like jokes," Ju added. "I still don't understand why your ambassador laughed when our president mentioned raining cats and dogs." Taeyeon chuckled. "On our world, the idea of animals falling from the sky is actually a religious prophecy. He thought your president was making a profound spiritual statement." The evening passed quickly. Taeyeon told her about his home planet's 3 moons and the bioluminescent forests where he grew up. Ju shared stories about her childhood in rural Korea before moving to the International Science Academy. Earth is so diverse, Taeyeon said. So many cultures on one small planet. It's one of the reasons your species is so valued in the Alliance. You understand diversity better than most. As they finished dessert, real chocolate for her, something that smelled like burnt cinnamon for him. Ju realized she was disappointed the evening was ending. Outside the restaurant, the night sky showed stars that now represented known worlds rather than distant mysteries. I enjoyed tonight, Taeyeon said. Would you consider meeting again? Before Ju could answer, he reached into a pocket and pulled out a small box. In my culture, when we wish to express appreciation for someone's company, we offer a small token. He opened the box to reveal a delicate silver bracelet. It caught the streetlight and seemed to glow from within, tiny patterns shifting across its surface. It's beautiful, Ju said honestly. May I? Taeyeon asked. When she nodded, he carefully placed the bracelet around her wrist. It adjusted itself automatically, fitting perfectly against her skin. The metal was warm, almost seeming alive. Thank you for a wonderful evening, he said. Thank you as well, Ju replied, admiring the gift. And yes, I would like to meet again. As she watched Taeyeon walk away, she felt something she hadn't expected, genuine interest in seeing where this might lead. The bracelet glimmered in the moonlight, beautiful and mysterious, much like its giver. What Ju didn't know was that on Taeyeon's world, such a gift, and its acceptance, meant something far more significant than appreciation for a pleasant dinner. Ju walked into the laboratory the next morning with a spring in her step. The silver bracelet caught the light as she moved, tiny patterns shifting across its surface. She couldn't help but smile when she remembered her dinner with Taeyeon. She had expected an awkward evening, but instead found someone who respected her work and seemed genuinely interested in her thoughts. The xenobiology lab was already busy when she arrived. Scientists from 5 different planets worked together, studying biological samples and comparing notes on various alien physiologies. Ju headed to her station, ready to continue her research on respiratory adaptations. Good morning, Dr. Park, called out Dr. Minho, one of the few Arcturian scientists on the team. His pale green skin and 4-fingered hands marked him as non-human, but his knowledge of Earth customs and language made him one of her favorite colleagues. Morning, Minho, she replied, setting down her bag. How's the cellular comparison study going? Minho didn't answer. He was staring at her wrist, his normally calm demeanor replaced with open shock. His breathing quickened, the gill-like structures on his neck fluttering rapidly. You're wearing a waikiki, he finally gasped, pointing at the bracelet. Ju looked down at the silver band. This? Just a gift from my date last night. Why? Minho moved closer, examining the bracelet without touching it. That's not just any gift, Ju. That's a Stellarin betrothal symbol. You've accepted a formal compatibility assessment. A what? Ju felt her stomach drop. What are you talking about? By now, other scientists had noticed the commotion. A human colleague, Dr. Williams, approached with curiosity. Is that? Dr. Williams began, looking at the bracelet. Yes, Minho confirmed. A formal Stellarin pairing bracelet. In their culture, accepting this means agreeing to a binding contract for potential mating. Mating. Ju nearly shouted, drawing more attention. She lowered her voice to a harsh whisper. We had dinner once. One dinner. Dr. Williams looked concerned. Stellarins don't date casually, Ju. Their population has been declining for generations. Every relationship is evaluated for biological compatibility. But Taeyeon didn't say anything about this. Ju protested, though she was already pulling out her phone. He just said it was a token of appreciation. From his perspective, you knew exactly what you were accepting. Minho explained Stellarins are very rule-oriented. Everything would have been in the dating app's terms. Ju frantically searched through the app on her phone, eventually finding a section labeled Cultural Appendices. There, under Stellar and Courtship Customs, was a clear explanation of the silver bracelet and its significance as a formal agreement to undergo genetic and personal compatibility assessment with potential for breeding contract. "Oh no," she whispered. Her fingers trembled as she typed a message to Taehyun. "We need to talk. Now." His reply came almost immediately. "I am in a diplomatic meeting. Is something wrong?" "Yes," she typed back. "The bracelet. I didn't know what it meant." 20 minutes later, Ju paced outside the Institute's conference room. When Taehyun emerged from a hover car, his normally composed face showed genuine concern. "Dr. Park," he began formally, "you seem distressed. You didn't tell me this bracelet meant we were practically engaged," Ju said, trying to keep her voice calm despite her racing heart. She held up her wrist. "This isn't just jewelry, is it?" Taehyun looked genuinely confused. "The application clearly indicated you were open to serious connections. Did you not read the cultural appendix?" "No, I didn't. My colleagues set up the profile." Ju took a deep breath. "Taehyun, humans don't commit to breeding contracts after one date." His silver eyes widened slightly as understanding dawned. "You truly didn't know. I apologize for the misunderstanding." They found a quiet corner in the Institute's garden to talk. Taehyun carefully explained that in Stellar and culture, all relationships had purpose. With their species facing genetic challenges, casual dating was considered wasteful. "But I can't just..." Ju began. "The bracelet can be returned," Taehyun said quietly. "It would be noted in diplomatic records, but there would be no personal consequences for you." Something in his tone made Ju pause. "But there would be for you." Taehyun looked away. Minor social embarrassment. Nothing significant. But Ju had studied enough alien cultures to recognize the subtle tension in his shoulders. "Please be honest with me." After a long pause, Taehyun spoke. "My family line has shown increasing signs of the genetic disorder affecting our people. I was selected for Earth diplomatic service partially because of my genetic profile. Finding compatible genetic partners was a secondary mission. So this is about breeding better Stellarans?" Ju asked, unable to keep the offense from her voice. "No, not in the way you imply." Taehyun looked genuinely distressed. "The truth is more complicated." Over the next hour, Ju learned the full story. The Stellarans faced extinction from a progressive genetic disorder that caused their neural pathways to degrade over time. Their scientists had discovered that certain human genetic sequences might hold the key to developing a cure. "We don't expect physical relations," Taehyun explained, his voice softening. "Just scientific collaboration. Your xenobiology expertise could save us. The breeding contract is mostly about research access." Ju sat silently, processing everything. As a scientist, she was intrigued by the genetic puzzle. As a human, she felt misled. "Why not just ask for scientific help directly?" she finally asked. "We tried for decades, but interspecies politics made formal research agreements impossible. Personal connections aren't subject to the same restrictions." Jumu looked at the bracelet again. The pattern seemed different now, more like the double helix of DNA than decorative swirls. "I need time to think," she said finally. "Of course," Taehyun stood. "Whatever you decide, I apologize for the cultural confusion. I genuinely enjoyed our dinner, regardless of other factors." As he turned to leave, Ju called after him. "If, and that's a big if, I decided to help with the research, what would it involve?" A small smile appeared on Taehyun's face. "Access to our genetic archives, collaborative research with our scientists, perhaps visits to my homeworld. And the bracelet would signify a research partnership, nothing more. Unless," he hesitated, "unless both parties wished for more." After Taehyun left, Ju sat alone in the garden. She hadn't removed the bracelet yet, Part of her was still angry about the misunderstanding, but another part, the scientist in her, was already wondering about the genetic puzzle of the Stellarin condition. One dinner had turned into the possibility of saving an entire species, and despite everything, she found herself curious about what a second date with Taeyeon might be like. Cultural misunderstandings aside. 3 weeks after the bracelet incident, Ju stood in the main laboratory of the Stellarin research facility. The building was unlike anything she had seen on Earth. Circular rooms connected by spiraling hallways, with ceilings that changed color to match the time of day. The technology around her was at least 50 years beyond Earth's most advanced equipment. "This is where we've done our primary genetic work for the past 30 years, explained Hyjin, the lead Stellarin scientist. Like Taeyeon, she had blue-tinted skin, but her eyes were darker, almost navy, and she wore her hair in elaborate braids that signified her senior scientific rank. Ju studied the holographic displays showing Stellarin DNA structures. After much thought, she had decided to help with their research, though she had made it clear to Taeyeon that she considered their relationship strictly professional. He had accepted her terms without question, though she sometimes caught him watching her with what seemed like hope. "May I?" Ju gestured toward the control panel. Hyjin nodded, stepping aside. "Please, your access has been fully authorized." Juwoo's fingers moved across the unfamiliar interface. The system responded to her touch, bringing up detailed genetic maps of the Stellarin population. She frowned as she studied the data. "You've been focusing only on direct genetic repair," she said after several minutes, "trying to fix the broken sequences one by one." "Of course," Hyjin replied. "The degradation occurs in specific neural pathways. We must repair those exact sequences." Juwoo shook her head. "You're focusing too narrowly. Human DNA has remarkable adaptive properties that might offer alternative solutions. Instead of fixing each broken piece, what if we could teach your cells to work around the damage?" Hyjin looked skeptical. "That approach has never been considered viable." "Because you're thinking like Stellarins," Juwoo said, then quickly added, "No offense meant, but your species excels at precision and direct solutions. Humans evolved differently. We adapt, find workarounds, use chaos to our advantage." Over the next few hours, Juwoo explained her theory. Rather than trying to repair the damaged Stellarin genes directly, she proposed introducing specific human gene sequences that could create alternative neural pathways, essentially teaching the Stellarin brain to rewire itself around the damage. "It's like a river finding a new path when the main channel is blocked," she explained. "We don't fix the blockage. We create new channels for the water to flow." By evening, Taeyeon had joined them. He stood quietly at the back of the lab, watching as Juwoo and Hyjin ran computer simulations of the new approach. "The initial results are promising," Hyjin admitted, her professional reserve cracking slightly to show excitement. "But the cultural implications of introducing human genetic material are complex. We're not talking about changing who you are," Juwoo assured her, "just borrowing a small sequence that helps with neural plasticity, the ability to form new connections." As days passed, Juwoo worked closely with the Stellarin team. She noticed how differently they approached problems. Methodical, precise, following established patterns. When she suggested unexpected connections or intuitive leaps, they often seemed startled, but increasingly willing to try her methods. One evening, as they were finishing a successful test simulation, Taeyeon brought her a cup of earth tea. "You've made more progress in 3 weeks than we have in 3 decades, he said, sitting beside her. Juwoo smiled tiredly. "Different perspective, that's all." "No, it's more than that," Taeyeon said. "Humans think differently. Your species looks for connections between seemingly unrelated things. Where we see separate problems, you see patterns connecting them." "Is that a compliment or a criticism?" Juwoo asked, sipping her tea. "An observation, and perhaps admiration." His silver eyes met hers. "Thank you for helping us, despite how our relationship began." Something warm spread through Juwoo's chest that wasn't just the tea. She had come to respect Taehyun's intelligence and appreciate his quiet support of her unconventional ideas. 2 days later, Juwoo was working late when she noticed a reflection in her screen, someone watching her from the doorway. She turned, but the figure quickly disappeared. It wasn't the first time she had felt observed. When Taehyun arrived the next morning, she mentioned the incident. His face darkened. "I was afraid of this. Not everyone welcomed your help." "Why, if it saves lives?" "Politics," Taehyun said simply. "Some believe humans will gain too much influence if your approach succeeds, that we will become dependent on Earth science." "That's ridiculous," Juwoo protested. "I'm sharing knowledge, not controlling it." "I know that, but there are conservative factions who see any outside influence as a threat to our traditional ways." He moved closer, lowering his voice. "Be careful, Juwoo. Watch what you say around others, especially officials who visit the lab." Over the next week, Juwoo noticed subtle changes. Access to certain data was mysteriously delayed. Equipment she needed was suddenly unavailable. Small obstacles appeared in her work, none significant enough to complain about, but together forming a pattern of resistance. She adapted, finding workarounds just as she had suggested for the Stellarin genes. When direct paths were blocked, she found alternative routes. Working late one night, Juwoo finally achieved a breakthrough. Her simulation showed successful integration of human neural plasticity genes with Stellarin DNA, creating new pathways around the damaged sections. The computer predicted an 89% success rate in preventing further neural degradation. "We did it," she whispered to the empty lab. As she saved her results, the lights suddenly went out. The emergency systems kicked in seconds later, but by then, Juwoo could hear footsteps rapidly retreating down the hallway. She quickly checked her data. Everything was intact, but someone had been trying to access her files when the power cut. Someone who didn't want her research to succeed. The next morning, she showed Taehyun the access logs. "This confirms my fears," he said. "The opposition is stronger than I thought. We need to move quickly now." "What do you mean?" "Your research is too important to risk," Taehyun explained. "We need to present it directly to the High Council before anyone can interfere. I've arranged a special session for tomorrow." Juwoo felt a flutter of both excitement and apprehension. Will they listen to a human? Taehyun smiled, reaching out to touch the silver bracelet she still wore, though now on her right wrist as a symbol of their research partnership. "They'll listen to the scientist who might save our species," he said. "Just be yourself, Juwoo. Your human perspective is exactly what we need." Juwoo woke early the morning of her presentation to the High Council, feeling both nervous and excited. After weeks of hard work, she had developed a promising approach to the Stellarin genetic disorder. Today, she would share her findings with the leaders who could implement her solutions across their population. She dressed carefully in her most professional outfit and placed the silver research bracelet on her right wrist. It had become something of a good luck charm to her now, far removed from its initial misunderstanding. As she left her temporary housing unit on the research campus, the rising sun cast a purple glow across the alien landscape. Something felt wrong the moment she entered the research building. The usual security guards were absent from their posts. The hallways were too quiet. When she reached the main laboratory, she stopped short in the doorway, unable to believe what she was seeing. The lab had been completely ransacked. Equipment lay broken on the floor. Data screens were smashed. The central server cabinet stood open, its storage units missing. Years of Stellarin research and her own breakthrough work gone. No, she whispered, rushing to her workstation. Her personal backup data stick was missing from its locked drawer. Even her handwritten notes had been taken or destroyed. Before she could process what had happened, 4 Stellarin security officers entered the lab. Their uniforms were different from the usual research facility guards, darker blue with silver insignia that marked them as government agents. "Dr. Juwoo Park," the lead officer said formally. "You will come with us immediately." What's happening? I need to report a break-in, Ju said. The break-in has already been reported, the officer replied coldly. By Dr. Hyjin. Before Ju could respond, two officers moved to either side of her. Though they didn't touch her, their meaning was clear. She was being detained. They escorted her through the building to a small windowless room with a single table and two chairs. The walls were the same shimmering blue as most Stellaran architecture, but the effect now felt cold rather than beautiful. After 20 minutes alone, the door opened to reveal a stern-looking Stellaran in a formal government uniform. His skin was paler blue than most, suggesting advanced age. I am Chief Security Officer Do-Yun, he said, sitting across from her. Do you know why you are here, Dr. Park? No, Ju said firmly. I arrived to find my lab destroyed and my research stolen. Do-Yun's expression didn't change. A convenient story. We have evidence that suggests otherwise. He placed a small device on the table that projected a series of images. Ju working late in the lab, copying files, sending messages on her personal device. You've been sharing classified research with your government, he accused. Earth wants our genetic data to exploit our weakness. That's absolutely false, Ju protested. I've sent reports to my institute as allowed in our research agreement, but nothing classified. Then explain why your Earth embassy requested an emergency transport for you scheduled for today. Why were encrypted messages sent from your quarters to Earth satellites? Juwoo's mind raced. She had done neither of these things. Someone was framing her. The door burst open, and Taehyun entered, looking more disheveled than she had ever seen him. Behind him was a human woman in formal diplomatic attire whom Juwoo recognized as Amanda Chen, Earth's assistant ambassador to the Stellaran homeworld. This interrogation ends now, Taehyun said, his voice tight with anger. You have no authority to detain Dr. Park without council approval. We have evidence of espionage, Do-Yun countered. Fabricated evidence, Taehyun shot back. This is absurd. Dr. Park has helped us more in weeks than we've managed in decades. Ambassador Chen stepped forward. The Earth government formally protests this detention and demands Dr. Park's immediate release into diplomatic custody. Any evidence against her must be presented through proper channels. For the next hour, the room became a battlefield of words. Taehyun and Ambassador Chen firmly defended Juwoo, while Do-Yun maintained his accusations. Eventually, they reached a compromise. Juwoo would be released to the Earth Embassy but would remain on the Stellaran homeworld until an investigation was completed. Back at the Earth Embassy, Juwoo paced the conference room. Someone went to a lot of trouble to frame me, she told Taehyun and Ambassador Chen. But why? And how do we prove my innocence? The timing is suspicious, Taehyun noted. Right before your presentation to the council. Juwoo stopped pacing. Wait, they stole the research, but they can't have destroyed all of it. There must be traces in the system, genetic markers that would prove. She grabbed a tablet and began sketching out Stellaran DNA sequences from memory. Every researcher leaves a signature in their work patterns. If I can reconstruct part of my research, I might be able to prove who actually accessed the files last. Over the next 3 days, Juwoo worked tirelessly, recreating crucial elements of her research from memory. With access to the embassy's scientific equipment, she was able to identify unique markers in the genetic sequences she had developed, markers that would be present in any copied or stolen data. Meanwhile, Taehyun used his diplomatic connections to investigate suspicious activities within the government. He discovered that a conservative faction, led by senior counselor Jinwoo, had been meeting secretly with Do-Yun. Jinwoo has always opposed relations with Earth, Taehyun explained. He believes our species should solve its own problems or accept extinction with dignity. On the 4th day, Juwoo made her breakthrough. Using trace elements found on remaining lab equipment, she was able to prove that her research had been copied using Hyjin's access codes at a time, when Hyjin was documented at a government meeting with Counselor Jinwoo. It was an inside job, she told Ambassador Chen. They framed me to discredit my research and Earth's involvement. The evidence was presented to the full Stellarin Council. Security footage revealed that Haijin had deliberately allowed members of Jinwu's faction access to the lab. The encrypted messages supposedly sent from Jiwu's quarters were traced back to a device owned by one of Doyun's officers. As the truth emerged, the political tide turned. Jinwu and his supporters were removed from their positions pending investigation. Doyun was suspended. And most importantly, Jiwu was finally allowed to present her research to the council. Standing before the assembled Stellarin leaders, Jiwu felt calm despite everything that had happened. "This crisis has taught us something important," she told them. "The solution to your genetic problem isn't just about DNA sequences. It's about adaptability, something humans excel at." She displayed her research, showing how human neural plasticity genes could help Stellarin brains form new pathways around damaged areas. "Humans don't just adapt biologically," Jiwu explained to the Stellarin Council. "We adapt our thinking. That's what you need more than our genes." Ambassador Chen stepped forward. "In light of recent events, Earth proposes a new approach. Instead of individual research contracts, we suggest a formal scientific exchange program between our peoples." The council chamber filled with murmurs of discussion. Taehyun caught Jiwu's eye from his position among the diplomatic corps and smiled. Despite the crisis, or perhaps because of it, they had created an opportunity for something better than either of them had imagined. 6 months had passed since the lab break-in and diplomatic crisis. The Stellarin capital city was dressed in its finest for today's ceremony. Banners in both Earth Blue and Stellarin Silver hung from the tall crystal buildings. Citizens from both worlds filled the central plaza, their excited chatter creating a constant hum in the air. Jiwu stood at the edge of the stage, adjusting her formal Earth diplomatic uniform. She still wasn't used to wearing such official clothing. For most of her life, she had lived in casual clothes and lab coats. Now she represented not just herself, but humanity's scientific community. "Nervous?" Taehyun asked, appearing beside her. He wore the formal robes of a high-ranking Stellarin diplomat, the silver patterns on the blue fabric matching the bracelet that still circled Jiwu's right wrist. "A little," she admitted. 6 months ago, I was just a researcher who let her colleagues talk her into one date. Now I'm about to help launch an interplanetary medical program." Taehyun smiled. One date that changed 2 worlds. The crowd quieted as the Stellarin High Council members took their seats on the stage. The Earth delegation followed, led by the Chief Ambassador. Jiwu and Taehyun waited for their cue to join them. "Dr. Park," a voice called. Jiwu turned to see Haijin approaching. After the truth about the lab break-in had been revealed, Haijin had faced serious consequences. Her role as lead scientist had been given to someone else. But Jiwu had argued for her rehabilitation, believing Haijin had been pressured by powerful political forces. "I wanted to thank you," Haijin said quietly, "for suggesting I be allowed to continue my research with the new initiative. Many would not have forgiven my actions." "Scientists should be judged by their abilities," Jiwu replied. "And yours are exceptional. The program needs your skills." A bell chimed, signaling it was time. Jiwu and Taehyun walked onto the stage together as the announcer introduced them as the architects of our new shared future. The ceremony officially inaugurated the Interspecies Medical Research Initiative, a joint program between Earth and Stellar that went far beyond the original breeding contract concept. Instead of merely seeking genetic matches for individual Stellarins, the initiative created a framework for broad scientific collaboration across multiple fields. Jiwu stepped to the podium to address the gathered crowd. Looking out at the mix of human and Stellarin faces, she felt a surge of pride. 6 months ago, I accepted a silver bracelet without understanding its meaning. She began, holding up her wrists so the bracelet caught the light. What started as a cultural misunderstanding has led to something neither of our worlds could have created alone. She explained in simple terms how the gene therapy program she pioneered had already begun treating the first Stellarin patients. Initial results were promising. 3 patients who had shown early signs of neural degradation were now stable, their brains forming new pathways around the damaged areas. "This is only the beginning," she continued. "What we learn from each other will benefit both our species in ways we cannot yet imagine." After the speeches and formal treaty signing, Ju and Taehyun walked through the research center that would house the initiative. Scientists from both worlds were already setting up equipment and discussing projects. The air buzzed with the energy of new ideas. They stopped by a window overlooking the city. The 3 moons of the Stellarin world were rising, casting multiple shadows across the landscape. "I received my new assignment today," Taehyun said. "I'll be serving as diplomatic liaison to the initiative for at least the next 3 years." Ju felt a rush of happiness. "That's wonderful. I was worried they might send you to another post." "I may have requested this specific assignment," he admitted with a smile. "Some connections are worth maintaining." They stood in comfortable silence for a moment, watching the scientists work. Human researchers explained Earth concepts, while Stellarans demonstrated their advanced technology. The 2 approaches complemented each other perfectly. "You've changed our understanding of what's possible," Taehyun told her privately. "Not just the medical breakthroughs, but how different species can work together." "And you've changed how I see the universe," she replied. "I spent years studying alien biology in labs. I never expected to really know someone from another world." They both looked down at the silver bracelet on Juwoo's wrist. What had once caused such confusion now represented something unique. Not quite the formal pairing contract of Stellarin tradition, but not merely a research partnership either. "I've been meaning to ask," Ju said, "now that the crisis is over and the initiative is established, what exactly does this bracelet mean now?" Taehyun considered the question carefully. "I believe that's for us to decide. Traditional meanings matter, but new paths can be created." He smiled. "Like your approach to our genetic problem." "A new neural pathway," Ju said thoughtfully. "Exactly." A young Stellarin researcher approached them, looking nervous. "Dr. Park, we're ready to begin the next phase of testing. Would you join us?" "Of course," Ju replied. As they walked toward the research lab, Taehyun lightly touched her arm. "I almost forgot. Some of us are gathering tonight to celebrate. Would you like to join us? It would be like a date." Ju finished with a smile. "Yes, though I promise not to give you any more jewelry without a full cultural explanation first."